Yes, I would say that. My company is now 27 years old. I started having a company in 1958 in New York City here, and I have seen in my own country and throughout the world an explosion of interest in dance. Of course, there are many countries like your own where dancing is much older than it is in the United States. So you have always had a dance explosion in Egypt. But my company and many others of its type and other kinds of companies in this country have caused a major revolution in culture around the world, yes, by the way we have put together our forms of dance. We are many kinds of dance here in America. We are ballet, we are modern dance, we are jazz dance, we are ethnic dance. We are many things. And I think probably because my company brings together all of these disparate elements have served to cause this kind of cultural revolution among our young people. Very much. I was born in the southern part of our country, in Texas, in the South. And I grew up as a child among people who sang gospel songs, who sang blues, who sang work songs, who sang our black folk music. I lived in that part of our country until I was 12 years old, and I was very influenced by my own family, for example, who danced at home, by the people on the streets who danced, by folk singers who came through our little town, singing blues and lullabies and telling us what happened in other towns. All of this came into my work very deeply, and I'm very, very deeply affected by my black roots, yes. My work is very, very influenced by my black heritage, and I'm very, very proud of that. And I think that that is one of the reasons that my company in particular is so popular around the world, is because we bring a very vibrant picture of the black experience to the world. And yes, yes, I'm very, very influenced by my black roots, and I'm very, very proud of that. I, I'm not so sure about that. I have a hard enough time keeping it together here in the States. I think that inevitably there is some influence as one travels around the world. We, after all, have been touring the world since 1962, sponsored by our State Department. And I think that we have spread our message, the message of our kind of movement, our approach to dance throughout the world. And as I have traveled in some of the same places years later, I have seen some of our influences, yes, as well as the influences of some of our great Americans who also labor in the same field. The influence of a woman named Martha Graham, a very great, great choreographer, a great inventor of movement, I think pervades the dance field throughout the world. The inventions of Merce Cunningham in the avant-garde field have influenced the world. I think my taking black folk material has inspired other countries and other choreographers to take their own material and use it in a theatrical way. And I'm very proud of that also. Yes, yes, yes. I mean, the blues, for example, I mean, I lived with the blues as a child, I mean, as music, as feeling. And the blues are the basis of a great deal of our contemporary music. I mean, our rock and roll music, our disco music is all based on the blues. And I mean, so it's an important part. The blues not only has inspired movement and other other forms of music, but a whole movement of people expressing themselves, expressing their most intimate feelings. I personally believe that my greatest works are the works that are the most personal to me. And I think that's been proven time and time again with other choreographers around the world, that these ballets that come out of our deep personal feelings, out of our roots, are the ones that endure. Yes. Yes, how are you? I'm very happy to be with you. Very well. Yes. Well, that's quite a question. I'd like to be understood by both. Being a person who comes from the South and who comes from a rather poor background, from my people were farmers. My people are people who work with the land. I had always wanted to have the kind of company which they could understand. So I'm very happy when the intellectuals understand what we do, but I'm even prouder when our ordinary people can understand our work. I am what you call a non-elitist. I don't believe that dancing is just for those folks who can afford to go to the great opera houses of the world. I believe that the dance is for everybody. We know very well that people danced in the temples. Dancing is very ancient. Dancing is a part of all of our souls. Dancing is a part of our lives. It's our bodies. It's our souls moving. So I believe that the dancing is for everybody on all levels, intellectual or not. I want to dance. I want to make dances for the people. I've always tried to make a company which would appeal to all levels of society, and I'm still trying to do that. Absolutely. Both. I want them to discuss it. I try to make programs in my ballet which are educational, which are entertaining, which are exciting, which tell people something about themselves. I try to make programs which hold up a mirror to the people that we're dancing for. I try to do something for people that tells them how beautiful they are. My dances are about human beings. I'm celebrating the human spirit. And that's what dancing is to me. It's a celebration. It's a life celebration. It's a celebration about what we all are, how wonderful we are together. It's a celebration about how alike we all are in this world. You're welcome. Well, I understand, yes, I understand now. Well, I'm not trying to make it national or black or white or green or any of those national elements which make up our country. I'm trying to make a universal kind of statement. I think that all great art is universal in its implication. I think that if it is true, if it comes out of a true impulse, if it, of course, has some kind of form, if it has energy, if it has invention, if it has honesty, then it's valid, whether it serves its national origins or not. It happens that we as Americans are a very diverse country. We are a country of many, many peoples. We're a melting pot. And so our nationalism is a kind of multinationalism. I mean, our influences are Egyptian, for example. Our influences are Romanian, they're Polish, they're Asian, they're Japanese, they're South American, they're African. So all of this comes to play in the dances that we see in America. We have very great ballet companies here, for example. We have developed a great kind of American ballet in the style of the New York City Ballet and American Ballet Theater. We have younger modern dancers who are inventing new forms every day. I live in New York City, and downtown in our lofts at this very moment, hundreds of young choreographers are inventing new ways of moving, of putting things together in a theatrical way. Out on our West Coast is another form of dance. In all the cities throughout this country, there are young choreographers, young groups, all making new things, as well as the traditional ballet companies and traditional modern dance companies like my own, making their own kind of national dance. There is no way to put your finger on what it is because it is so diverse in this country. We do have our folk dances as well. We have many groups in the South mainly, which are and in the West, which are devoted to doing our own kind of clog dances, our own kind of tap dances, our own kind of square dances. But America is a very diverse country, so its culture and its outlook on dance, its choreographic output is also very diverse. Well, when I make a dance personally, I don't start to try to make it international. Yes? Hello? Are you there? Hello?
They are changing their tapes right now. They will get right back with you.
I see, okay. Yes, I'm here. Yes, in Giza. Oh, really? When? Yes, during our Metropolitan Opera season. How are you? More slowly. Okay. I think I started to say that when I start to make a dance, and I think that any artist really does not start to try to make it international. We're simply trying to be honest to what the theme is, honest to whatever one is trying to say. I have never tried to say, well, I'm making international dance. I'm going to make something that is universal in its implication. I try to do something which is honest to myself, honest to my experience. I filter it through my experiences as an artist, and if it turns out well and turns out to be universal, then I'm very happy. I just happen to believe that all great art is universal. And one, of course, one doesn't always make great ballets. I mean, I make failures, and I've seen many of the choreographers who work with us make failures also. One of the things that we must be allowed to do as artists, as choreographers, is to experiment. We must be allowed to fail. We must not feel, for example, that you must always be successful. I think that if you feel that you must always be successful, you tend to pressure yourself too much. You tend to make dances for the wrong reason. I think we must make dances because we feel that it's something that we must say. And so, I mean, that's what I do. And I don't always succeed, but I succeed for myself because it's honest always. How many choreographers do we have represented on the panel there in Cairo? Huh? Yeah, I'm concerned. This the same answer. Hello. I'm curious about on the panel how many choreographers there are. Yes, I mean choreographers there on the panel. Marvelous, fantastic. I would like to know what your choreographers feel about the same question. Is it Magda I'm speaking to? I'm very curious about your point of view about the same question. How do you feel about making dances? Do you try to make an international statement, or are you simply doing what you feel? Yes, I'm very curious about Egyptian dance. We know too little about your culture in our country. Yes, right. Uh-huh. Aren't you sweet to say that? Keep doing it. The operative word, the operative word is tenacity. You have to keep doing it. You have to believe in yourself. You have to train the young. You have to keep at your government to keep you well funded. You have to build an audience. Why do you laugh? I know. Well, we have the same problem. We have the same problem in our country. We have to educate our administrators. We have to educate our legislators always, especially to the dance, to the arts in general, and to the dance specifically. But that is a lifetime's work. That is something that you will always have to do. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your knowledge. You have to believe in your creativity. You have to believe strongly in what you are doing and go on doing it. I mean, you're always going to do it against odds. It's always going to be difficult, but you have to believe in the beauty of creativity. You have to believe in the beauty of what you're making. I always say that I'm making something where there was nothing before. You're creating something in space, new forms. You have to believe in that very strongly. I think that I think that Egypt is a very rich country. I mean, your myths. It seemed to me that the young people who saw us in Giza when we were there some years ago loved dancing. They loved the whole idea of moving the body. There is in the world today the philosophy that the philosophy of the body. We have coming back to ourselves again through the body. And I'm sure that that's true in Egypt. I'm sure that there is a passion for movement in Egypt. And you must seize upon this passion among your public, among your legislators, among your educators, among your creative young people, and make that live. It will not be easy. It is not easy. But you've chosen a very difficult thing to do, but I think that you must do it. But you do this kind of thing because you have to do it. And I think that all of you gathered there with your degrees, with your government support, though it's difficult, can do this. I know that it's possible. Not verbal enough. I really am not. Yeah, well, it's tough. It's always been tough. It's been tough with me from the very beginning. I've been doing it in the United States since 1958, and it's been difficult all the time. But what has come out of it, the result has been so wonderful. I have produced wonderful people. The people, it's what it's all about. I mean, I have watched people grow from my school. I have a very wonderful school, as I'm sure your Ballet Institute is, as I'm sure you're all dedicated to the young. I've watched young people grow from fledgling dancers to performers to choreographers to company directors, and that's really what it's all about. It's really all about planting the seeds, about being a progenitor, about inspiring, about giving of yourself. I mean, I'm sure that all of you there give much more than you really get back. Well, that's what we're here for. I mean, that is our mission. We are to give. You have to keep on being tenacious about wanting to give this. You must go on creating your ballets. I don't know what your physical situation is like. I mean, I don't know if you have wonderful studios and wonderful classrooms and wonderful musicians. We always want more than we have. We believe in the fantasy, we choreographers and teachers. And when that fantasy dies, then we no longer want to do this. You must keep the fantasy about what it is you want to do, and it will come to you. You know, people will come. It will happen. You must keep the faith, as one of our great Americans has said. Of course, no, it was not that. I mean, being a black person in the United States and being born when I was born in 1931, I had some rather rough times racially when I was living as a child in the South, and those racial memories are brought about the first ballets I did when I became a choreographer in New York City. I knew Lester Horton. I worked with him for 5 years before he died. I think you know that. He was a great, inspiring man. He was the man who inspired me to have a company of people of all colors and sizes and artistic inclinations, a company which enfolded the idea of the universal man. And I wanted to be like Lester Horton. I wanted very much to do that. But I also wanted to say something about my black roots. My first idea was to make a black folkloric company, was to have an enormous company very much like the, let's say like the Ballet Folklorico de Mexico or the Bayanihan Company of the Philippines, and take black material, say 50 marvelous black dancers from the South and 30 musicians and 20 designers and 4 folk singers and all of those, put them all together and make a black folkloric company. That was my idea until I arrived in New York City in 1954, where I met all the moderns. I didn't know anything about modern dance except what Lester Horton had taught me. And when I arrived in New York City, I immediately got involved with Martha Graham, as you did, with Charles Weidman, with the great Jose Limon, with Hanya Holm. I saw all the trends there. I saw many concerts in a very vibrant dance scene where there was a concert every night, and decided that these works needed to be preserved. I was very concerned about black dancers, of course, and I decided that the black dancer was much more than a folkloric dancer, that it was a universal, well-trained, sophisticated animal. and should be doing all kinds of things. So I decided that I would have a company which highlighted what the black achievement was in dance at the moment, which was black history in a way, my black roots, which was sophisticated, as sophisticated as the latest kind of new movement, and which preserved preserved dance in general. So I made a repertory company. What mine is actually is a national modern dance company. I have produced in the 27 years works by some 50 choreographers, some 150 ballets by 50 different choreographers. So the preservation aspect is also very important. The classical ballet has done that for many years. I mean, the classical ballet has its Swan Lakes and Coppelias and Cinderellas and Romeo and Juliets that have lasted for hundreds of years, some of these works. And the modern dance classics like Hanya Holmes' Trend and Jose Limon's Misa Brevis slip away. So one of my aims is to preserve as well as to celebrate the black heritage. And I think that you in Egypt must do the same thing. You must preserve. There's a very great American, I wish I had made this up, who says that you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And I believe very strongly in that. And I think that's one of the tenets that we must hold on to in our seeking to make dance a pure and expressive and popular art form. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, absolutely. I mean, anytime we're outside the country and you're with a group of Americans and we're 30 dancers and with technicians and costume designers and stage managers, we're 40 people altogether. We're highly visible. I mean, a predominantly black group is highly visible wherever it is in the world. So we feel and we are representatives of our country, whether our government is sponsoring a particular tour or not. Yes, we all feel, but we always feel that we're representatives of what our culture is, and we carry ourselves in a way which befits that image. Well, I certainly enjoyed Egypt. We played in Giza, under the Sphinx. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, I loved your country. I mean, your country has given us so much. I mean, your myths, your legends have permeated the dance throughout the world. I mean, Martha Graham, myself. I mean, opera, ballet. You must be very proud of your traditions. I mean, I mean, what you have given us is enormous. Yes, I mean, Egypt, we've been touring since 1962. I've found some places that are just extraordinary. I love Paris, of course. I love London. I love, Moscow has its charms, Leningrad, Rio de Janeiro, Tokyo. We're everywhere. I've grown to love a lot about all of these places, all of these cultures. I've taken all of that into my soul. And of course, in every place there's wonderful dancing. I mean, on different levels, of course. In every country we find ballet, we find the national dance, we find some kind of movement of modern dance in every place that we go. And I take that all into myself. It is an education. I'm sure that there is some Egyptian sand from under the Sphinx in a ballet that I made last October called Isba. It's a very rich experience traveling around, and your country has added a great deal to that. I hope you should be proud of that. Can you tell me something about what your national ballet does? Are you subsidized? Are you well? What kind of productions do you do? Do you have enough money? How many dancers do you have in your company? How are they trained? Are they happy? What are your dreams for Egyptian dance? Well, it depends. It depends very much on the choreographer. The modern dance came about in this country because we wanted to express more human emotions. The ballet seems to me to express those refined kind of elite emotions, about princes and nutcrackers and all of the swan queens and all of that. The modern dance came about in this country as a revolution against that kind of thing because the people who made it, namely people like Isadora Duncan and Ruth St. Denis and Ted Shawn and Catherine Dunham, a very great black choreographer, wanted to say something about the man on the street. You know, they wanted to talk about a guy who had problems, who couldn't pay the rent, you know. They wanted to talk about the ordinary people, so the modern dance was born out of that impulse. I mean, Isadora Duncan tore off her tutu and corsets and toe shoes and said, let's get down and do it the way the people do it. Let's walk around the dirt, you know. And that's what I like about it. That's what I liked about the modern dance when I came to it, was that I could say something about my people who were walking in the dirt with bare feet in Texas, in the South. And I think that is what it's all about. But there are very sophisticated choreographers, and I'm sure that you are one of them, who can make emotion out of the classical technique. There's a very great choreographer whom I'm sure you know, named Anthony Tudor, who with the classical technique makes the most refined statements, the most distilled emotions. So I think it's a question of talent, you know. But nowadays we use everything. I and my company encourage the concept of the total dancer, the dancer who can dance in all styles. And I think that your dancers are probably doing the same things in your ballets. They're wedding the classical technique, a very strong classical technique with all the modern dance styles to make it all more expressive, to make it all total dance. And that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the dancer being able to move from ethnic dance to classical dance to the Graham technique to the Horton technique to things that I might invent. I'm interested in the total dancer. And therefore I'm interested in total emotion. I'm very interested in feeling in dancers. I don't like dancers who let people watch them dance, for example. I tell my kids, I say, look, you know, go out there and show the people what you're feeling. Do the correct steps, but make them know that you're a human being. I believe in the cult of the individual. I believe that we're all individuals, that what we are is people. What we are individually is what we contribute to this world, and I like to see that in dance. And I'm sure you do that in your choreography. I mean, it's the way we are going now. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yes, it does. It's a tough scene. It's a tough thing to be in the United States also. I mean, not everybody. I mean, there aren't people out there in the world looking for dancers constantly. My school is in New York City, where there's a very active dance scene. I mean, there's television dance, there's the Broadway musical that people go through, there is MTV, there are lots of little dance groups, there are the major companies situated there. So there is the whole big boiling always of dance. But even so, one is not assured that one is going to get a job once one has all these fantastic techniques under one's belt. A lot of the people who come to us are people who, yes, the young people who come to us want to be dancers, and a lot of them who come through my school end up in my company or in some other company. But dancing is very much in the United States a kind of calling. You have to be called. You have to really want to do it. It's a chance that you take. I mean, there's a chance that you will not get into a company, and they all know that. But the great chance is that the great thing that I celebrate in my school is that they will be enriched, whether they become dancers or not, that they will gather a sense of themselves, that they will become more self-possessed, especially sometimes in the minority groups, the black groups, the Latin groups. We need to encourage our young people to have a greater sense of themselves, and I think dancing is a great way to do that. I have some 5,000 students who come through my school annually, 110 classes a week, 35 instructors, workshops, an enormous program for children, a program for visually impaired teenagers, of which I'm very proud, a workshop company of college-age students, of 26 dancers who do their own choreography and make their own costumes, an apprentice company of 16 from whom I take dancers into the first company. So I'm surrounded by wonderful teachers, wonderful musicians, and wonderful people who are aspiring to be dancers. And it's all very inspiring. I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's not necessary really for all of these people to turn out to be professional dancers, but the experience, what it gives to their lives, how it makes them feel about themselves, how our school-age children add the dance discipline to their educational disciplines, how I have seen young people who come in with negative feelings about themselves, look at themselves in a mirror, and I'm sure you know this also, with some training, and turn out to feel like they are really a part of what is going on in the world. And that, to me, this perception of self, this creation of this perception of self, is what is so wonderful about dancing. And it does it, and I'm sure your audiences get that also. That is what it is important to me, that we are giving something back to our public. The arts, to me, are basically a social statement. You know, all great arts, to me, in my mind, are social. And of the people. They came from the people, and I'm trying to give them back to the people. They are a reflection of our culture. The arts of any culture, to me, are a manifestation of the greatest part of that culture, the most beautiful part of what it is, and that's what I'm trying to do. As an actor, I had a career as an actor. I gave it up. It was too much for me. I decided that I could not do both. I started the company in 1958, and in 1961 I did several plays on Broadway without ever having studied as an actor. And I was always torn. My first love was choreography and dancing, but some producers came to me and directors and said, you know, you should be an actor because you act when you're dancing. So I got involved with it. But I soon discovered that acting was just as finite as discipline as dancing, that you really could not play with acting. You had to devote yourself to that it was another kind of discipline. And I had to choose, and I chose to do what I'm doing now and to leave acting alone. Well, no, I have auditions yearly, and I mean, and dancers come from all over the country. But I mean, yes, but I have access to all the people at the school. I have half of the people in my company of 30 dancers, the main company, come from the apprentice company, which is a group of 16 who travel around to universities and colleges doing things in situations that are too small for the big company. My great concern is to get the dancing out to the people, you know. I mean, a lot of people, I don't know how it is there in Egypt, probably the same. A lot of people that I want to reach don't feel welcome in the concert hall. One of our jobs is is audience building, to educate people to what the dance is. So I believe very firmly in going out to the people. So the apprentice company's job is to go out to the people. The workshop's job is to go out to the people, to go out to elementary schools, to go out to junior high schools, to go out to all of those, to senior citizens' homes, to go out to prisons, and take the message of the dance to all of these people. So it has to go out. Do you do that kind of thing in Egypt? We believe very much in lecture demonstrations where we explain what it is we're doing. And we use a lot of national material also so that people feel like they're understanding what it is, as well as, you know, wonderful dances on point and things like that. I didn't say I was going to choreograph in the Egyptian ballet. What I said was that I made a ballet last October with Middle Eastern influences, and I'm sure that it's called Isba. It's called Isba, and it's an abstract ballet. It's an abstract ballet, but it has feelings of the Middle East, and I think a lot of that feeling came from Egypt. But what of your modern dance? I mean, are there no small groups? Does your wonderful dancer there not dance with a small group? I mean, the younger people seem to understand very much modern dance, the jazz, the explorations that people like that I'm sure that you're doing in your classes in modern dance. It's closer to their pulse than some of the classical things. you know, and we're very involved here with the young. I hope so too. It's been a great pleasure talking to all of you. And I just want to tell you that we're all doing the same thing, whether we're doing it here in America or there in Egypt. The message of love that we're trying to communicate through dance, the lesson of beauty, the lesson of projecting our own cultures, is something that is so important to, to us, to the, to the future, to our young people, to project universal feelings of love and brotherhood throughout the world. I'm very, very happy to have met you all in this remote way. And I look forward to seeing you either here in the United States or in your own country. Thank you.